Hello, everyone. Welcome to class number 8, Noon Conference and Learning on the Job. I'm Jared Deshevsky, founder, creator of Healthcare Huddle, and creator of this course, Intern Year Bootcamp, in partnership with Doximity. So if we take a step back and think, where are we in the day of a typical day for me when I was an intern, right? Right now we're about 1 o'clock. Okay, we're at Noon Conference. So I think this is an important topic, principally because there is very minimal structure when it comes to learning during residency. And the onus is really on you to maintain your curiosity and honestly go above and beyond to learn fundamental concepts about medicine or surgery, techniques, whatever it may be. So a lot of it is on you. And I will say you can definitely tell the difference between the residents that are pushing themselves to learn as much as they can and the residents who are, taking a minimal approach to learning, where it's like all very passive. So you really do need to try to be an active learner and be curious. And one thing I'll share that rattled me was when I was doing when I was on my liver medicine rotation as an intern. I was presenting on a patient with a very rare type of biliary disease called Caroli's disease. And I remember I was presenting that morning on rounds, like, this is a 24-year-old with Caroli's disease, complicated by, I don't know, cirrhosis, etc., here for a transplant evaluation. And the attending was like, what is Caroli's disease? And I just looked with kind of a blank stare. And I knew what it was, and it was a principal diagnosis for the patient, and I had no idea. So, I'm curious about what Caroli's disease is? And since that day, almost 3 years ago, I have the soundtrack of what she was saying in my mind. Like, aren't you curious? Aren't you curious? So, I'm just going to lead into class 8 with hammering that point home. Like, be curious and don't let the curiosity just sit there. Like, actually be active and satiate that curiosity. So first thing first is Noon Conference. So Noon Conference is probably something you explored while you're doing your sub-I or acting internships, or at least on the medicine services is what we have. I know in surgery, at least when I was doing my surgery clerkship as a medical student, your Noon conferences are typically before the day starts, so like 6:30 or 7 o'clock. But for medicine, at least, at 12 p.m. to 1 p.m., you have this blocked off time to just learn. And typically you have presenters, didactics, something of that sort, where you have 1 hour and you're just learning. Noon conferences is nice, right? It seems very academic. When attendings come to present on a certain topic, it's kind of hit or miss whether it's a really engaging topic or not. Personally, stare at a PowerPoint and watching someone lecture. It needs to be active. I need to see someone writing on a whiteboard, engaging the audience, which is why this course, Intern Year Bootcamp, is a lot of me writing and showing you demos. So you'll figure out what you like and what you don't like. But again, PGY2s, PGY3s, I'm not sure what they do in surgical specialties, but at least in medicine, you also have something called morning report, or just report. And in morning report, at least the way it's structured at my institution, a couple residents present a case, and you have chief residents or attendings who are asking you questions about the case, and they want to see how much you know, and it's supposed to be a very robust learning experience, not only for you, but for the people watching you. So like you sit at the center of a table, with ESRD, hemodialysis, hypertension, lipidemia, type 2 diabetes. He presented with 2 days of progressive dyspnea and orthopnea. And then people will start asking you questions. Like, what were these initial symptoms when he presented? What were the initial vitals, labs? What did they do in the ED? And then what did we do as the team? And then what's on the differential? How do you treat this? What are the studies, trials that support this, that go against it? So that's again, a structured learning experience. But what I think, or what I'm most interested in, or what I'm more passionate about, is the unstructured learning, where we throughout residency. Okay, Foremost is when it comes to learning about anything, you want to have, honestly, 2 to 3 resources that experiential learning, right? Aside from like just seeing the patient in real time. So say resources at all times and you stick with it. So for me, I'm despite being a technologist, I'm definitely old school, and I love the school gifted to me Harrison's internal medicine textbook. And so whenever I have a question about a pathophysiology or a disease, I open up that textbook and it has everything in there. And textbooks are nice because it is curated content by experts. And the textbook, the content that's in it, it's already very succinct, but detailed, sufficient enough to teach you, and it's structured in a beautiful way. And there's images, like I had Dr. Marino's the ICU book, and on night shift I would go through it and look up how to treat AFib with RVR, how to treat sepsis, etc. Very fun. And so I'm a textbook guy. So that's one resource I fall back on. Another resource now with all these AI models and medical search queries is something like Doximity. Your model is trained on journals or publications from New England Journal of Medicine, JAMA. They have guideline integration, etc. So I use textbooks, Doximity, Ask, and then you have your board reviews. It's in for board reviews, and again, that's very curated content by experts. I'm falling back on these 3 resources. I really don't expand. Some people do podcasts. Nothing wrong with podcasts. I love podcasts, but it's just not in my workflow. I just wake up, do my morning routine as you saw in class 1, and I just get to the hospital. I really don't have, I'm not commuting a long distance for me to actually listen and pay attention to a podcast. So those are resources. So keep them short and sweet. And okay, the next thing for unstructured learning is having, how do I want to say this, a learning case list. So I strongly, highly encourage you that when you are in the hospital, you create a separate list where you keep track of the cool cases where you learn about Caroli's disease, or you learned about an interesting surgical technique, and those are the cases those are the cases you can anchor yourself to learn about XYZ. So okay, I have at this point probably dozens of learning cases, and you could use a sticky note within, or at least an Epic, to quickly highlight what the case was, and it just helps. And you could review the x-rays, you can review the imaging, and it's great. And it's also helpful if you want to write case reports in the future. And so I could just review these cases. And because I went to the same institution for medical school, I have cases from medical school that I continue to review. And it's quite fun. And then lastly, I subscribe, obviously, to a bunch of newsletters. This is something that's in my workflow, and but I subscribe to a bunch of newsletters to quickly stay up to date on industry trends and medicine. New England Journal of Medicine has a great resident newsletter where they break down studies, they do case reports. It's good. It's very short, sweet, and it keeps me up to date. There's a lot of information. One thing I've been trying to do is to see if I could create an an AI agent that can read these emails that I get, these newsletters that I get, and basically summarize them and surface key information or key journals, key publications. And I will say it is nice, but be aware something useful about reading the information yourself and letting your brain wander and explore your curiosity when you're reading, versus AI just summarizing something for you. So I actually stopped using this AI agent that summarized all my pulmonary and critical care newsletters, and I just started skimming them myself. And I'm learning so much more just by reading it myself versus having an AI do it. So just be aware, you could try it out, creating some AI agent that reads these inbound messages or news or emails, but I didn't really find it too helpful. And then lastly, before a rotation, or something that I've been doing lately, is that before each rotation, I do something called what I'll call. So let me explain. So we could use something like Doximity Ask. And what I've been doing now is before each rotation, whether it's like just a classic medicine floor rotation or a specialty service like liver medicine, I ask Doximity to help prepare me, right? As a third year resident, I've been on every specialty service, every rotation. Like I know this stuff, but it's been a while. If I'm on vacation for 2 weeks or if I'm an outpatient, like you can get, if you're a surgery resident, you can look up surgical techniques, etc. before a rotation. And so my next rotation is liver medicine, right? So it has a lot to do with liver transplant. So let's create a prompt and see how Doximity Ask can prepare my upcoming rotation on the liver pre-transplant, let's say liver medicine, pre-transplant service. Specifically, help prepare me for classic presentations that patients with end-stage liver disease present with, such as decompensation, that will help prepare me for rounds and teaching. And what else should we know? Let's see. Also, let's see. End-stage liver disease, decompensated cirrhosis. Make sure to highlight pathophysiology. And let's say this. Given that I'm going into pulmonary and critical care, please highlight any pathophysiology overlap between prepare me. Right, portal hypertension, hepatic 3 cardinal manifestations, ascites, variceal hemorrhage, encephalopathy for pulmonary critical care. So this is this is straight up answering my question, right? It's doing exactly what I said. Hepatopulmonary syndrome is a beautiful table showing intrahepatic resistance. Oh, right here says what the hepatic venous wedge pressure would be and what the gradient would be. Talk about cardiac cirrhotic cardiomyopathy, classic presentations, ascites and refractory ascites. Tells me how to diagnose. Is this coming straight from portal hypertension or is this from cardiac ascites? SBP, hepatic encephalopathy, variceal hemorrhage, acute and chronic liver failure, and what the actual definition is, because this is key. And we see a lot of patients with this in the hospital, and this is the overlap with HPS and portal pulmonary hypertension. Key trials to present around to make myself look good. This is huge, right? If you want to look good as an intern, this can surface key trials that you just want to know. Human albumin for acute on chronic liver failure. What else do we have here? Can't miss pathologies, SBP, HRS, hepatohydrothorax. Great. Explore it further. And when you're a resident or if you're an intern, you have to give report, like do the intern report or resident morning report. You could help Doximity, where you could input a patient case and say, I want to talk about XYZ, help me prepare for morning report. So going back to our John Smith example that I've been referring to, this guy, one-liner was 75-year-old male, ESRD, hemodialysis, hypertension. He presented with progressive dyspnea and orthopnea. So I'm going to paste this AI-generated patient progress notes and say, help me prepare for morning report. I'll be reporting on this patient and discussing dyspnea/orthopnea in the setting of ESRD. Provide me key teaching points for my peers, etc. I don't know. We'll see what comes up. Let's see how structure framework. Classic but high yield scenario. Structural differential, right? So it's helping prepare and talk about the differential, HFrEF versus HFpEF, other stuff, why orthopnea happens, clinical reasoning, teaching points, some physical exam findings, important teaching pitfalls, which is really nice, right? It finds your blind spots. Or morning reports in addition to the other learning resources that you've been using. All right. So that's how to learn, okay? So just to summarize, because this was quite a long discussion, role on your part, be curious, take notes on what you're curious about, and make sure that you are actively satiating that curiosity by learning on your own, because you only have like 1 to 2 structured hours for learning during the day, but you're seeing all these cool patients doing all these cool procedures during the day, and it's important for you to learn more about them and explore further. Okay? And again, you can tell the difference between the resident who's reading and learning every day on their own because they're curious, and the resident who's just, I'll end on that quote. All right. See you next class.